welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Australian Indian Radio's 3rd of June mid-morning news. And well, we have so much to talk about. And don't forget that at 10 a.m. we'll bring you all the travel updates with Tanvi Goyal of Oz India Travels. Of course, because we know at this point in time, it is very challenging times. It is very trying time. So, it is always good to find out what can be done and what can't be done, about moving around, and if people do have to travel, what would they really need to do, and why would it be necessary to get all the checks and balances in place, and what are those checks and balances, and all of those things. So we really need to be very, very careful. Well, right now, of course, that big news yesterday, the state of origin. Well, right now, people are, trying to get hold of as many tickets as they can, as was predicted, but he is winning from Queensland government.
Waiting for one by the looks of things. Ready?
Yes, we are ready.
Oh, no. Okay, thank you. Thanks for the warning. Okay, very good. Well, thanks everyone for joining us, and a special hello to those at home tuning in. I know everyone's very excited about the state of origin, particularly those Queenslanders who will have the opportunity to attend the game next Wednesday in Townsville. And that's a very important message that we want to remind Queenslanders about, and that is about accessing your ticket. Tickets go on sale very soon. In fact, it's about an hour away, the ticket sales. And it's important that people buy their tickets from reputable sellers. There are only 2 official outlets for buying tickets, NRL.com and Ticketmaster. All other outlets you do have to exercise caution about. There are offences and penalties, stiff penalties in fact, for people who seek to profit off selling tickets to others, seek to profit through not selling those tickets through official channels. In fact, if you're out scalping a ticket, you can face a penalty of almost $2,700. And if you actually purchase a scalp ticket, you can face a fine of almost $700. So please, when you're considering the ways that you might get your state of origin ticket for next Wednesday's game, please make sure you're using reputable official sellers, because if you use unofficial channels, if you use outlets which are scalping tickets, which are selling tickets for more than 10% of their ticket face value price, then you face stiff penalties yourself, and also run the risk that the ticket that you are buying is not a genuine ticket, which will mean that you will face disappointment when you turn up at the gates at the Townsville Football Stadium trying to get entry. So a big reminder to everyone, please exercise good judgment when you're trying to get a ticket. Please make sure you follow the rules about getting tickets. This is an exciting opportunity for Townsville and all of Queensland for that matter, as we see Queensland obviously have a great game against New South Wales, and with all expectations, Queensland come away as the victorious participants in that game. I'll hand over to the Deputy Commissioner to remind everyone around the rules with scalp tickets and the offences that are involved.
Yeah, thanks Minister. Paul Taylor, I'm the Deputy Commissioner for Regional Queensland, and fortunate enough to have my office and staff in Townsville, so a great announcement to see Townsville get the state of origin. It's something that I think people in North Queensland have dreamed for a long time. Townsville in particular, very passionate community when it comes to football, and obviously the home base for the Cowboys. The brand new stadium up there, which if people haven't been there before, is a sensational asset.
So there you are, the message is loud and clear. Do not buy scalp tickets, buy them from the credible sources. Do the right thing. Yes, this is Australia. We are here in Australia, and let's follow the Australian way and make sure that we do the right thing and do not go down to those kind of practices. Well, right now, all eyes are on Victoria as the lockdown has been extended. Let's take a look at the situation there.
These empty streets, a familiar sight from 2020, will last at least another week. It's a blow to many Victorians trying to wrap their head around another winter on the financial brink.
It's a very challenging time, and yeah, it's a very hard time.
Footscray kebab shop owner Abdu Muhammad has thrown out $8,000 worth of food and is worried his business won't survive a prolonged lockdown.
The way we're heading now at the moment, no.
With the outbreak now at 61 cases, with more than 5,000 close contacts, the government said it had no choice but to keep Melbourne closed.
If we let this thing run its course, it will explode. We've got to run this to ground, because if we don't, people will die.
There are some changes. The travel limit is doubled to 10 kilometres, some outdoor work will now be permitted, and Year 11 and 12 students can return to the classroom. Of the new cases, one is an elderly resident of the Arcare aged care home, the second resident to be taken to hospital. Schools have been infected, and one North Melbourne family of 4 recently travelled to Jervis Bay, New South Wales, creating exposure sites along the Hume Highway. And there's also new exposure sites in Anglesea on Victoria's surf coast, linked to a man who caught the virus at the Brighton Beach Hotel. The extended lockdown is crushing on business and people's mental health.
We are so acutely aware of that dilemma. The choice about extending a lockdown now is about avoiding even worse consequences down the track.
Well, today Victorians are seeing this lockdown going from circuit breaker to heartbreaker.
I have great confidence that we'll be able to go to ease settings after the end of next week.
It's a quality that Melbourne is feeling quite short of. Richard Willingham, ABC News, Melbourne.
Of course, it is a very, very saddening situation there, and taking a look at that. Well, right now, Catherine Bennett discusses that with Lee.
Catherine Bennett is the Chair of Epidemiology at Deakin University. Firstly, can you please clarify briefly, are the numbers that we're seeing in Victoria now reflecting spread that was going on before the lockdown started or after? What kind of lag is there in that?
There's a bit of both, Lee. One of the worrying numbers today was a case that didn't test for 6 days, and that's someone who was out mingling before lockdown. We did see another case that was someone who was a bit more of a casual contact and picked up recently. But some of the exposure sites that were reported overnight are actually over the weekend. So whether that's someone who lives in town or is an essential worker, we do have some more more exposure sites that we're now following up, that lockdown will actually help, that will reduce the number of people exposed at those particular locations.
Australians will remember they were told a year ago that lockdowns were necessary to prevent the health system from being overwhelmed. Victoria has 1 person in hospital with COVID, so the system's nowhere near being overwhelmed at the moment. And we now also have strategies like masks, sanitisers, social distancing, working from home, heaps of ventilators, vaccination, PPE, and so on. In that context, with everything we now have and we now know, is lockdown still necessary?
Well, they're using lockdown still as this circuit breaker. So not that lockdown itself actually does the work, but really that most of the work is still done by their contact tracers. I think they think we're tantalisingly close to closing this off. It will happen faster if you do it actively with contact tracing, with those supports in place with lockdown.
The government authorities are saying the Indian variant transmission is nothing like what they've seen. But can you clarify that? Because we've always seen coronavirus able to spread from people that are confined indoors near each other, like cafes or shops or something like that. So what is actually different?
Look, that's right. We've had this virus in the community for a month now, and we've got 60 cases, but only 60 in a way. If this was really taking off, a lot of that was unchecked spread, and thankfully we haven't seen it really go very far. What we are seeing is 10% of cases that are these less sort of tangible links. These are people who were sitting in an outdoor area of a beer garden in a pub. That might have happened and probably did happen in the second wave. We couldn't document that. These weaker chains of transmission were just missed and were probably either counted as mystery cases or people that didn't even get tested.
Catherine Bennett, thank you.
Thanks, Lee.
And there you are, up to date on Australian Indian Radio as well. Right now, we're looking at this variant. So let's take a look at why authorities are worried about this variant.
We have right now 60 cases and over 350 exposure sites, and a variant of the virus that is quicker and more contagious than we have ever seen before.
At least 1 in 10 current cases have caught this virus in those casual contact settings.
These are quite different, and it's a much more fleeting contact.
Just when you think this pandemic is over, another scare emerges. It's bad enough that Victoria has another outbreak, but to discover that the variant may be super contagious is almost too much to take. And now it could have spread to New South Wales.
And let me stress that these virulent chains of the virus have been around for a long time, and they're going to continue to be around. We're going to see the virus change. We're going to see it increase its transmissibility, and in New South Wales we've been aware of this for some time.
Officials are worried about fleeting contact and the short time it's taking between becoming infected and being able to pass it on. They say this so-called generation time is down at 24 to 48 hours. Professor Kanthak Subbarao is a world-leading researcher who's worked on the SARS viruses for many years.
What public health officials are concerned about is the interval or the duration in which a transmission occurs from person A to person B. And so that interval was typically taking about 4 days, and now the concern is that it's shortening.
Virologist Professor Greg Dorr thinks it may not be as worrying as it looks. Rather than people being infected more quickly, authorities could just be getting quicker at detecting new cases.
Early on in outbreaks, often the generation time looks short, but it's artificially shortened. And the reason why that's the case is that you're doing lots and lots of testing. We shouldn't sort of be too alarmed by some cases appearing to have relatively short duration transmissions, because I think there's nothing particularly different about this virus compared to some of the other strains that we've been dealing with very effectively.
What's different this time around is the so-called Indian variant, which is creating concern around the world. Whenever and wherever there's a new pandemic wave, new variants spin off. The Victorian virus is known as 617.1, now called the Kappa. The 617 lineage started last year in Maharashtra state in India, and there are three main spin-off mutants, 0.1, 0.2 and 0.3. Most is known about 617.2, which is rapidly spreading around the world, including in the UK, where after a fall in cases, they're now seeing a surge. The variant now circulating in Melbourne was also in the UK earlier in the year, but didn't take over.
I think that real-world evidence from the UK is really important in the context of what we're seeing in Australia now.
Authorities say the increased infectiousness of the variant circulating in Melbourne is behind stranger-to-stranger transmission. While that may very well be true, this might not be the first time that there's been spread from fleeting contact. For example, that's been the theory for how the man in the barbecue shops in Sydney caught it distantly from a hotel quarantine leak.
We had examples where the virus was transferred through what we understand were very fleeting meetings or aerosol. We're open to those risks, and I think those risks highlight why it's so important to have people vaccinated.
Victorian health officials.
And it is very, very important to have Australians vaccinated, and as soon as they can, following all the protocols. Of course, there are waiting times and the gap in between the first and the second dose, and of course, if you are having the flu vaccination first, it depends upon what category you fall in, and depending on all that. But whatever needs to be done, please do it. Yes, let's get ourselves vaccinated and moving on. Well, right now, when we look at the police force, which is trusted with a lot of information that comes to their hand, but sometimes when the system slips, there could be some serious consequences, as in this case where a victim of a domestic violence had a phone number actually revealed to the perpetrator. Here's Lee with that report.
Assistant Commissioner Leanne McCusker is the domestic violence spokesperson for New South Wales Police. Thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you very much, Lee.
How is it possible that police provided Sophie Spittle's partner a USB of her personal data?
Part of a forensic procedure to secure evidence and to secure digital evidence that can be used at court. that this process was conducted with Sophie's phone, and that was first and foremost done, for the victim to actually obtain admissible evidence that can be used at court, to be able to put that forward in a court matter. Now, in terms of the USB that was provided, a normal process for any court matter is for the brief of evidence to be served to the accused. And in this particular incident, that USB was part of that. However, I'll acknowledge to you here and tonight that the sensitive material over and above what was part of admissible evidence should not have been contained on that USB.
And as you mentioned that it should not have been, but it was there. So this is a bit of a problem and a bit of a worrying thing, that everything really needs to be checked and double checked before they passed on. Well, right now, under the current circumstances, people are a bit worried about their jobs. We have lots of areas where people are needing people. They reckon that, students and other ones who were filling in those jobs, especially the casual jobs, are feeling the pinch. But then we have many people who don't have any jobs. So where is that balance, and what are people thinking about their job security in Australia?
Geordie Gilmore is trying to improve her employment prospects. The postgraduate student is one of 500,000 casual workers who are once again locked down in Victoria.
I was actually already jobless when the pandemic hit last year because I found 2 jobs and both of them tried to underpay me. And when I queried it, they stopped giving me shifts. But I'm pretty lucky this lockdown because I do have another barista job at the moment.
But Geordie's work situation isn't unique to Victoria. Across Australia, about a quarter of the workforce are casual workers. But economists say there are more people employed in insecure jobs as employers push for more flexible arrangements.
That's why we have this totally bonkers situation where we have people in long-term employment relationships in casual jobs. And it was not the way that casual work was supposed to be designated, which was supposed to be temporal and seasonal.
88% of participants in the Australia Talks national survey think job security is a problem for Australia in general. About a quarter, or 27%, are concerned they might lose their position within the next 12 months. And those over 50 are much less confident they could find new employment if they had to, compared to younger Australians. Dr. Jan Bryant is one of them. After nearly 11 years in a contract role as an academic, she's never been made permanent and is being let go at the end of the month.
One of my colleagues
We're crossing over now to Queensland.
Invested more than $100 million into this Redcliffe Hospital, and we have made a commitment now to do a business case to look at a major expansion of the hospital because of the growth that we are seeing in this Moreton Bay region. And the ICU unit will have or has 4 negative pressure rooms and 2 isolation rooms, which means going forward we will be able to manage, as our economy and as our country opens up, future COVID cases, because we know once our international borders lift, we will get more COVID cases and it will be in the community, and it will be really important that our hospitals have these facilities where they will be able to isolate people and contain the virus. And it's been great as I travelled around the state to see these negative pressure rooms being built and established in each of our facilities. And I want to acknowledge the Commonwealth Government, who also contributed as a 50-50 partnership, $3.2 million into this new intensive care unit. In relation to vaccinations, we have very exciting news. I yesterday called on all residential aged care and disability workers to jump online and register their interest to get vaccinated with Pfizer at one of our Queensland health facilities so that we could get you fully vaccinated as quickly as possible. Today I can announce that we will be opening up, we will have 18 facilities, vaccination hubs, opened up over the weekend. this weekend. We will be calling on all residential aged care and disability workers to come forward and register so that we can get them booked in for this weekend to get vaccinated. If they do that, it means in 3 weeks' time we can have our aged care workforce fully vaccinated. And they are the front line of keeping our most vulnerable in our aged care and nursing homes safe and our disability facilities. So please, if you have not already and you're a residential aged care or disability worker registered, we want you to do that today. So in addition to our 15 existing sites across Queensland, we have Logan Entertainment Centre, Rockley Showgrounds and Springfield Tower. So they will all be opening over the weekend. All of them will be open on Saturday and 10 of those will be operational on Sunday as well. We hope to do around 15,000 vaccinations over the weekend. In addition to inviting residential aged care and disability workers to get vaccinated this weekend, these sites will be open for the 40 to 49-year-olds who have registered to be vaccinated. So I want to be clear, these sites are not for the general public. It is not open to walk-ins. This is open to the 40 to 49-year-olds who have been registering with us. Over 30,000 have registered with us so far to get vaccinated, and also our residential aged care and disability workers who will get absolute priority over the weekend so that we can get them fully vaccinated. I want to thank all the staff. We have many health workers across the state who are standing up to help us run these facilities over the weekend. We hope that this weekend will be a platform for us to go forward and to build on our capacity and to further open up the services for vaccinations.
And that is good news that, over the weekend, a lot of these centres will be open and that we will have aged care and those people out in the front. But don't forget that at 10 a.m. We have Tanvi Goyal coming up with the travel updates that are happening right here at 10 a.m. Right now, let's take a quick look at some of the functions and events taking place right here in Brisbane. And ladies and gentlemen, that's about all we have time for in this segment, in the mid-morning news segment. Don't forget that we are back up at 10 a.m. and Tanvi Goyal from Oz India Travels will be here with all the travel updates under the current conditions. What are you allowed to do and what options do you have? All those will be discussed right here at 10 a.m. Hope to see you all back then. Until then, it's goodbye from me.